Okay, today I'm very happy to welcome a new rising talent from South Africa, Nikita Faber, and she's been working in the last couple of years between cinema, television, and independent production. Hi, Nikita, how are you? Happy to meet you online.
Hi, Sharif. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm very excited to have a chat about the artistic journey and what I've been up to in the past couple of years.
Great. Tell me a little bit about yourself, growing up in South Africa and your interest in arts. How did it start?
Well, I always knew that I was interested in performing since childhood, really. So I actually come from a musical background, and from then I knew that it was something that I wanted to pursue. Either I wanted to be a musician or I wanted to be an actor. And then I chose acting. So shortly after high school, I took a gap year, and then I went straight into studying at a film academy in Cape Town. And after I graduated, I was quite fortunate. I got an agent quite quickly, and I just threw myself at everything. And even though I was primarily trained in film, I was going up for a lot of musical theatre auditions, and it was interesting. It was an interesting time. It was fun because I got to sing, but it was very challenging, and I definitely struggled. I auditioned straight for 2 years and never got any bookings until exactly on the 2-year mark. I booked my first film job, my first ever job, to be honest, and that was for a sci-fi production. A very fun character, and that clarified the path for me.
And you told me you got an agent in South Africa, you mean, or in the United States?
In South Africa, yes, because we actually have
Yes.
quite a big film hub in Cape Town. So, and it can take a while, but I was just fortunate that I found an agent who was willing to take me on.
Yes. Before I speak to you about your characters and role you played recently, tell me, as a rising performer right now, because you can act and you can sing and maybe you can dance as well. All African can dance. You know, tell me about how do you see the
How do I?
how do you see the environment right now for production and in South Africa for talents, and also the roles offered to women? How do you see them right now?
Well, unfortunately, right now, South Africa's industry is not in good shape. We're actually in dire straits, and a week ago, we protested because we're in such a bad situation. So we are hopeful that within the next couple of days, the government will turn this ship around. And there's been a lot of hurdles as well. It's COVID, it was the actors' strike, and so there's been a lot. But in South Africa recently, it's really not looking good, and there's really not much on the horizon as of late. But we are hopeful, and we are always optimistic, and I do believe that things are looking up, and they will sort of get to a place where our industry is not dying more and more every day.
Yes. Quality speaking, the last films I've seen from South Africa, are quite amazing. The short films and the long form films, and as well, a lot of artists went to work in Europe and the United States in big productions. And as well, I've seen many films like to shoot right now in South Africa. I remember Safe House, Denzel Washington shot there, and also the Tom Cruise film Mission Impossible, the last one. It has a big segment there. So I hope this will help. I mean, co-production, discovering talents from your country to all over Africa and the world. And all the time I go to an African festival, I tell them, the best thing for African cinema is to start co-production between African countries and find stories, that brings, North and East and West and South Africa together through stories. And I think this is the way to support the African, identity. But tell me about the South. I mean, the science fiction film you did. Tell me about the characters because this one I think I've seen recently.
For the sci-fi movie, the first job I ever did.
Yes, yes, yes.
So my first job, I remember the description of Daphne very clearly. It was the bored wife who's sexually frustrated and kind of loathes her husband. So I had a lot of fun with that. I'm one of those actors that, when I have a pretty strong instinct. So when I first look at a script or at the sides that I've been given, I generally get this feeling. And with Daphne in my first job, even though I had experienced 2 years of drought, I had this feeling, and I just knew that she was something I really, really wanted to play, and I didn't want anyone else to play her. And I went to town. When I auditioned for her, we were going into studio, so it wasn't a self-tape. And I remember I had, a little audience in the studio, and it was just magical. I had so much fun, and they gave me so much to work with. And I think I waited about 2-3 weeks to hear back, and then I got the call, and I was so excited because not only was it my first film job, but it was my first job ever. And I think, I was thrown into the deep end. I mean, of course, yes, I studied, and it does give you a strong foundation, but the real learning really starts when you're working and auditioning. And so I learned a lot on that job, and I'm very grateful for the experience. It was an away shoot, and I still cherish those memories, and I still am proud of that character.
Yes, that was the film Six-Headed Shark Attack, right?
Yes.
Okay, very nice. And then I've seen you have done a character in a big production. It's 1923. This is on Showtime and Paramount with Harrison
Yes,
Ford.
for the Yellowstone 1923, that was quite a big deal. But it was, it was a smaller role, but you're still just so grateful to be a part of a production like that. And it's also just such an experience. It really is just like you've stepped into a different time, a different era, and I absolutely love that. I love costume and makeup and hair, and it was such a journey. You just can't even imagine the costumes, and there was a whole warehouse just full of 20s clothing, and it was surreal. It was really, really surreal. It's such an incredible experience, and I long to do another period piece. I really do. I love period pieces.
Yes, I think the productions right now are going back to this era right now, and I've been seeing a lot right now between Netflix, Showtime, and Amazon. But tell me right now, do you have a dream character or project you would like to achieve in the future?
Great question. Yes, I do. I I feel like I've played a lot of characters sort of close to myself, and I just would long to play a character much further from me. I have so much more that I want to delve into and give. And I would love to play a villainous role. I just love a character with depth and grit and layers and complexities. And I mean, the more depth and grit, the happier I am. And I still have yet to sort of go up for roles like that, but I can't wait. Yeah, I really, really would love to play a villainous role. And in saying that, I also have a soft spot for dark comedy. I think there's something really beautifully human about a story that is balanced between shadow and darkness and humor. And that's that's really where it's at for me.
Yes, of course, you're familiar with Agatha Christie. And
Yes.
recently, there was a series of films, the Who Done It films, and it starred, the actor who did James Bond as well. He did 3 films out of them on Netflix, And I remember, in the 80s, they used to make a lot of dark comedies inspired by that. Mixing comedy and people are inside like a castle or a mansion and somebody's killed and somebody trying to investigate, and they did 2 of them, in the 80s with great actors actually. Peter Falk, who used to do Columbo, did one, and Tim Curry. I love him since the Rocky Horror Picture Show. But I think this kind of films are getting. I mean. Very similar sometimes to the work of Tarantino, it has humor and action and violence all, packaged, in
Yeah.
the narrative. So tell me as well, you work in many films as well. I mean, Fried Barry and Invasive. Tell me about your character there, and tell me what kind of research and preparation you do as well for when you get a new job.
Okay, so I, in Fried Barry, I had a very, very small role. It didn't require too much from me. Invasive required a little bit more from me. I just, was playing a woman desperate to make ends meet, and the way she goes about making money was quite risky, and she ends up getting in a very, dangerous situation. And I think everybody knows what it's like to be, desperate to make ends meet. I mean, most people do, and really just put myself there. And I think there's real gold when you just sit in the truth of the story you're telling. And then for me personally, the most fleshed out character that I've recently worked on was Natalie from Match, which was released last year in October. And Natalie was also much like Daphne. The minute I received my sides, I knew that I, again, couldn't bear the thought of anyone else playing her. And I knew that I needed to play her, and because I resonated with her so deeply, but in ways that weren't all that comfortable. And I knew that I had something to say through her. And I knew that if I allowed myself to face the truth of myself, then I would find gold in the performance of Natalie. And I, in turn, would liberate and free some things within myself. And I really did. Natalie she's a deeply insecure person, but she hides her insecurities beneath her very iconic rockabilly style and her confidence. And she's adventurous, she's wild, she's strong outwardly, and she's funny. And yeah, and at her core, she's just yearning for love and intimacy, and she's struggling to navigate that in modern society with, you know, dating apps and how that's reshaped how we search for intimacy. And for me, that was deeply personal and deeply human. And I knew that, again, there were parts of me that needed to be faced in order to play her well, and in the way that I envisioned the minute I read the sides. And she's actually, I'm so proud of that role, even though they were uncomfortable parts. For me, it was the best thing that I think I've done thus far.
Can you hear me? Yes. Right now, I want to ask you about the having a South African accent. Do you think this could be a plus sign for you or a barrier if you get cast in certain roles? And also about South African production right now, do you think the productions right now in cinema they are influenced by American and European subjects? And I mean the approach to deliver films, or you know, they are more related to, you know, the subjects important more to South Africa.
Well, I'll start with that. I think the South African industry is a good mix-up of, you know, maybe some inspiration comes from the US and Europe, but we also have great local productions that derive a lot of their material from our beautiful country and from our beautiful people and the cultures here, and there's so much to be proud of here. So, you know, it's a good combination. And in terms of my South African accent, no, I don't do any local work. I haven't done any local work. I'm very passionate about accent work, so it's been a privilege to work on international productions and step into other worlds and dialects, because that is essentially right up my alley. I love accent work, so that's never really been a thing for me, because I'm always playing with accents, and yeah, that's me.
Okay. Finally, do you have a certain advice for South African artists who are starting to discover their talents and they want to take, you know, a road to entertainment performing? What steps do they need to have, you know, educating themselves, studying according to your experience so far?
You know, studying is, like I said, does lay down a strong foundation, but you don't have to. And not everyone has those resources. And it would be arrogant to assume that everyone does. I would say if you have the desire to act, just pick up any book. You know, we've got so much information at our fingertips, the internet. Just every day, educate yourself. Find different ways to explore acting, to grab anyone to just act with. Keep going. You don't have to have, you know, any sort of degree behind you. You really don't. Or should I say diploma. I really do think that that's nonsense. But if you're passionate enough and you've got a strong enough drive to do it, then you will make it happen. I really do believe that. And if there's anything else I can offer up, is if you really want to do this, then you should probably, in my opinion, stay curious about the human condition, stay resilient, stay grounded. Don't put a timeline on your journey. Don't compare the trajectory of your career to others. every experience and every rejection, because you are going to face a lot of rejection, is there to shape you if you harness it positively. And protect your love and your passion for the craft, because unfortunately you will also face a lot of negativity, and a lot of people will project their own fears and their insecurities onto you. And only you have that vision and all the context, and you need to protect it fiercely. It's not yours to absorb. And lastly, I would say never give up. If there's a will, there's a way.
With this beautiful positive message, I want to thank you very, very much for the interview,
Thank you.
and I wish you and I wish you all the best in your upcoming works. Hope this interview will help as well to discover your internet movie database contacts and filmography. And I hope when you have a new release, you can come back to us talking about it, and maybe we'll meet someday in a film festival in the US or Africa or anywhere, you know.
I hope so. I really, really hope so. And thank you so much for having me on the show today, and for the fact that it's wonderful to talk about this.
Take care. Have a lovely afternoon in South Africa, and I will be following your news, you know, thoroughly. And again, thank you very much for the lovely interviews, and all the best this year and the upcoming period as well.
Thank you so much, and to you, and hopefully see you soon again.
See, bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharif. Bye.
Bye.